Imagine this. Terabytes of social media posts, unpredictable sensor readings, and messy user logs are just slamming into your servers every single second. Where on earth do we put all this semi-structured data? And more importantly, how do we actually manage it without our entire system just collapsing? I mean, this is the massive, real-life headache that data engineers are facing right now. We live in an era where digital information is constantly being generated. But capturing it, making it actually available for complex querying, and maintaining it over time, it's an absolute logistical nightmare. So what's the core problem? Right now, developers are basically forced to stitch together this crazy patchwork of systems. You might use Hadoop for analytics, maybe a NoSQL store for flexible data ingestion, and then a relational database for your structured queries. You're essentially building a data pipeline held together by, as the researchers behind today's topic put it, bubblegum and baling wire. It's incredibly brittle, super complex, and data transfers between these totally different systems are painfully slow.
But by the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly how to solve this problem. We'll quickly cover what a big data management system, or BDMS, actually is. Then we'll see how to use the Asterix data model for flexible data modeling. And finally, we'll break down exactly how to query all that complex, nested data using the Asterix query language.
All right, let's jump right into the foundation. What exactly is a BDMS? Well, to separate it from standard analytics platforms, a big data management system like AsterixDB doesn't just query data. It natively stores, manages, and indexes massive quantities of semi-structured data. Think of it as the ultimate one-size-fits-a-bunch solution. It literally eliminates the need for those duct-taped data pipelines by bringing the raw power of parallel databases and flexible NoSQL stores together into one unified platform.
So taking a high-level look at the architecture, you can see data continuously entering through data loads and feeds on the left side. The cluster controller right there acts as the brain. It's the logical entry point for all your user requests. It then takes those tasks and distributes them down to the node controllers, which harness the massive aggregate processing power of a shared-nothing commodity computing cluster.
Now you might be asking yourself, wait, why not just use a Hadoop query platform or a NoSQL store if they're already out there? It's a super common point of confusion. Well, the reason is that Hadoop-based platforms usually lack native data storage and automatic indexing, which makes them really inefficient for smaller targeted queries. And on the flip side, NoSQL stores generally lack a full declarative query language, so doing complex analytics is, well, incredibly difficult. AsterixDB bridges that exact gap.
Okay, now that we've got the basic idea down, let's move on to where our data actually lives. The top-level organizing concept in AsterixDB is called the dataverse. You can kind of think of a dataverse as your own personal database universe. It's the designated space where you create and manage your specific data types, data sets, and functions for any application you're building. So, once you have your dataverse set up, you actually need to define your data. Enter ADM, the Asterix data model. ADM is this highly flexible JSON-based model that supports a massive spectrum of use cases. It can handle everything from schema-first situations, where you know exactly what your data looks like ahead of time, all the way to schema-never situations, where your incoming data streams are completely irregular and totally unpredictable. Let's make this a bit easier with a real-life analogy. ADM handles all this flexibility through closed and open data types. Closed data types are like rigid metal filing cabinets. If a document doesn't perfectly match the predefined folders in that cabinet, it absolutely cannot go in. Open data types, on the other hand, which actually happen to be the default in AsterixDB, are more like flexible, expanding folders. You define the basic required information, but there's plenty of wiggle room for completely new, unanticipated data to just be tossed in later.
Time for a quick check. What do you think happens if an open-type dataset receives an instance of data with totally unexpected extra fields? Does it throw an error? Does it just discard the data? No way! AsterixDB happily accepts it. It stores your required fields using highly optimized metadata, and then it just stores those unexpected extra fields directly within the individual data instance itself. No crashing, no panic.
Let's look at a real code example to anchor this. Imagine a hypothetical social network called mugshot.com. We create a type called mugshotUserType and define it as open. We require an ID as an integer and a name as a string. Simple enough, right? But because it's explicitly marked as open, any future user profiles can suddenly include bios, profile picture URLs, or timestamps, and the system will ingest them perfectly without you ever needing to rewrite the schema.
All right, so we've covered how to store the data. Now let's transition to how we actually query it. This is where AQL, the Asterix query language, comes into play. AQL is a declarative expression language loosely based on XQuery. And here's the cool part. Because it isn't based on SQL, AsterixDB is completely NoSQL compliant, making it incredibly adaptable for deeply nested JSON-style data.
HOQL relies really heavily on the FLWR formula. And yes, that's pronounced flower. Let's break down these steps. First, the for clause binds your data instances to variables, which is a lot like the from clause in SQL. Let allows you to define intermediate result expressions. Where filters your data. Order by sorts it. And finally, return outputs the exact structure you want. It acts much like SQL select, but it's positioned logically at the very end of your query.
Now you might be asking, hey, if this is so similar to SQL, why do we even need AQL at all? It's a great question. The crucial thing to remember is that SQL was designed decades ago for perfectly flat, two-dimensional tables. When you actually try to use SQL to query deeply nested data, complex arrays, and variable schemas, it turns into an absolute nightmare of complex, really ugly code. AQL was built from the ground up specifically for the clean, elegant traversal of nested data.
Let's check out some of AQL's more advanced capabilities. Because we're dealing with big data, we have built-in support for text, spatial, and temporal queries. Just take a look at this code snippet right here. Notice the part that says, satisfies word tilde equals tonight? That symbol right there, the tilde equals sign, is actually AQL's native operator for a fuzzy join.
What this specific fuzzy query does is honestly incredible. First, it tokenizes a user's messy social media message into individual words. Then, it checks for an edit distance similarity to the word tonight. Because we can set an edit distance threshold, it successfully returns messages containing typos, like someone spelling it T-O-N-I-T-E. This kind of flexibility is absolutely crucial when you're analyzing messy, real-world, user-generated content.
Let's look at another real-world application, spatial joints. In this example, we have a where clause utilizing a built-in spatial distance function. With literally just one simple line of code, this Oracle query can instantly pair a user social media message with a bunch of other messages sent from nearby geographic locations. Doing this in traditional systems, you'd usually need highly specialized plugins and some pretty complex math.
Okay, let's pull back the curtain on the architecture for just a second. When you submit that spatial or fuzzy query, here is exactly what happens step by step. First, your query hits the cluster controller. Second, the built-in compiler, using a framework called Algebrix, translates your AQL into a job description. And third, the job executor hands this over to the Hierax Dataflow engine, which goes ahead and executes the job in parallel across all your worker nodes.
But what are those worker nodes actually querying? Well, AsterixDB features native storage and indexing designed specifically for continuous data ingestion. It uses partitioned log-structured merge, or LSM-based data storage. On top of that, it natively supports B+tree indexes for your standard data lookups, R-tree indexes for mapping spatial data, and n-gram inverted indexes to make those fuzzy text searches we talked about incredibly fast.
Now wait, this is important. A really common concern at this point is, if AsterixDB is doing all of this heavy lifting, flexible schemas, fuzzy joints, spatial indexing, doesn't it sacrifice basic system performance? Actually, early experimental benchmarks prove that AsterixDB operates in the exact same performance ballpark as highly mature specialized systems like parallel relational databases and popular Hadoop analytics platforms. So you get the breadth of features without losing the speed.
Before we wrap up, let's quickly summarize the key takeaways we promised at the start. Number 1, a big data management system integrates native, scalable storage with full querying capabilities. Number 2, the Asterix data model, ADM, allows you to model data using rigid, closed types or super flexible open types. And number 3, the Asterix query language, AQL, easily processes complex, nested big data using that FLWR structure. Which leaves us with a final thought. We started this whole explainer by looking at the nightmare of duct taping totally different databases together. If one system, a true BDMS, can finally fit a bunch of big data problems under one roof, how are you going to redesign your data architecture tomorrow? Thank you so much for following along with this explainer, and I highly encourage you to check out our next lecture where we dive even deeper into advanced LSM